The Monday, February 27th, 2023 meeting of the Marquette City Commission is now called to order at 6 p.m. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Moving on to attendance. City Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Hanley,
Here.
Commissioner Larson,
Here.
Commissioner Ottaway,
Here.
Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Stonehouse,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis,
Here.
and Mayor.
Here. Commissioners, I need a motion to excuse Commissioner Smith due to illness. Mayor Pro Tem Davis.
I move we excuse Commissioner Smith as she is unable to attend this evening.
Thank you. And do we have a second on that motion? Commissioner Stonehouse?
Second, Your Honor.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, moving on to the approval of the agenda. Commissioners, we have an agenda in front of us. Do we have a motion on the agenda? Commissioner Ottaway?
I move to approve the agenda as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Larson? Any discussion?
No.
Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed? All right, motion passes 6-0. I have no announcements for this evening. Moving on, we have 3 appointments this evening and 2 reappointments. Do we have a motion on appointments? Commissioner Ottaway?
I move to appoint Kerry Gottlieb to the Planning Commission, Steve Laurie to the Planning Commission, and Justin Vassow to the Board of Review.
Okay, do we have a second? Commissioner Stonehouse?
Second, Your Honor.
Any discussion, comment?
No, thank you all. I will mention that it was nice to see Mr. Gottlieb go for this. He actually applied for the seat that Commissioner Larson got. It's great to see that he's joining the Planning Commission. It's going to be a good move for him and a better move for the city. We can really use his expertise. I'll also comment on Justin Vassow, as I personally have served with him on the BZA. He's somebody that's been there for a very long time. So to see him go somewhere else, the city is lucking out to get him to go somewhere else as he's been around for a while. So it's great to see.
Thank you. Commissioner Stonehouse? Yeah, any further comment? Any other commissioners? Okay. So right now we're just voting on the appointments. All in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Motion passes 6-0. Moving on to reappointments, we have 2. Do we have a motion on the reappointments? Commissioner Hanley?
I move that we reappoint Sarah Bixby to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board and Joseph Tuccini to the Marquette Brownfield Redevelopment Authority.
And do we have a second? Commissioner Stonehouse?
I'll second, Your Honor.
Thank you. Commissioner Hanley, any comment?
I would just like to thank them for continuing to serve. It is always nice when people continue on these boards with the expertise and the knowledge they've learned.
Commissioner Stonehouse?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Anyone else? Okay. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And are any of the members being appointed here today? If you want to meet me up at the podium real quick here.
Steve Laurie.
Tony Mayor. So have here for you a certificate of appreciation from the city of Marquette, as well as your official Marquette pin.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for serving.
Appreciate the appointment, too.
All right, that brings us to our first public comment session of the evening. As a reminder, public comment may not exceed 3 minutes per person. Please state your name and physical address prior to your comment, and feel free to approach the center podium.
Good evening. My name's Caden Reed. I reside at 803 North Front Street. So when considering the sale and development of more city property, Marquette is in a position to shift paradigms and change the term develop into transform. In regards to the potential for change at 601 South Lakeshore Boulevard, I ask that you be patient, slow down, and work with community members to transform that lot rather than consider the possibility of a hotel or credit union, that both seem to be the two options on the table at the moment. At the February 13th meeting, I heard two major points of discussion. Marquette City could benefit from the sale due to the current financial needs in the city, and two, that the property potentially isn't considered lakeshore development because of its location being west of the bike path. First, there surely seems to be no rush to the permanent change of a city property just for short-term economic solutions. There are other profitable ways to transform this lot, and there must be other ways that the city can take care of its financial needs in the meantime. I was peeking at the approved budget for the city for 2023 that is active and published, and I don't seem to notice any discussion in there about the revenue from this sale or properties like this one. I may have missed that, but from what I was able to see, it just doesn't seem like this is planned revenue, so there seems to be no need to make a sale anytime too soon. Second, according to the latest master plan that we are currently changing, the whole area is considered South Marquette waterfront, park space, conservation space, and open space. Again, I may be missing something, but that's what I read in the master plan. In Chapter 3, page 3, quote-unquote open space. Chapter 3, page 14, future land use recommendations, it is labeled as parks. Chapter 3, page 24, proposed zoning map, South Marquette waterfront, waterfront recreation conservation. Following that on page 25, there is a quote, we need to develop incentives for the preservation of open space. In this location as well, obviously, there's a buffer between the lake and the city. This buffer is stated by commissioners and community members at the last meeting that we are losing more and more of these buffers. And in these spaces, there's microhabitats and ecosystems that exist in those ditches, trees, shores, and shrubs by the bike path that will be lost, further displacing biodiversity and removing the stability of the natural resources that we boast and are so proud of. So again, I ask the city to be slow and transform this space. Please do not rush to develop it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else for public comment?
Good evening, Orville Ishno, 1802 Kimber, Marquette. Didn't think I was going to have any opposition, but here we go. I come to thank you tonight on this snowy evening in Marquette for considering doing something with our surplus city property. Get it on the tax rolls. This property we're talking about on South Front, Lakeshore Boulevard, it's sort of spoiled already. If you look around there with the hotels and the condos and this and that, it's time to get it on the tax rolls. And the more taxes we can get out of that property, it's better for your current taxpayers. I been paying taxes in Marquette since 1977, and things aren't getting any easier. I'm 82 now, and the things are getting a little tighter each year. You know, as everybody knows, our electric bills go up, our sewer and water go up. You asked us just recently to pay more taxes, and I talked to Karen and I said, I don't mind paying more taxes. I don't want to give up the services that we get here in Marquette. But on the same token, I come back to you and say, if there's property out there that the city sees to be surplus property, please let's do something with it, get it on the tax rolls, and help us out a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else for public comment? Anyone else? Seeing none, public comment is now closed. Moving on to our consent agenda. Commissioners, do we have a motion on consent? Commissioner Ottaway?
I move to approve the consent agenda as written.
And do we have a second? Mayor Pro Tem Davis?
I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Ottaway, any discussion?
Nope.
Okay. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. That brings us to new business item number 4, My Next City's grant agreement. City Clerk, background, please.
Thank you, Mayor. In the latter portion of 2021, the city was approached by Next Energy, a Detroit-based nonprofit that has partnered with Eagle to start the My Next Cities program. My Next Cities chose 3 communities statewide, Marquette, Flint, and Dearborn, to identify and deploy tailored solutions that improve energy solutions backed by research, policy, and urban planning for a broad spectrum of residents. Following commission approval to engage with the program in 2022, the city manager's office began meeting bi-weekly with Next Energy staff to develop a model plan that is in line with the city's climate resolution, clean energy goals, and departmental needs. Meetings were coordinated with department heads and appropriate supervisors throughout the city to assess energy, asset, and facility needs that could be provided a solution with the funding attached to the program. The city's prior investment into energy performance and efficiency through the JCI program completed many of the low-hanging fruit projects, and significant research into rooftop solar for the wastewater treatment plant in Lakeview Arena found that those projects still lack a feasible return on investment with the current price of materials and technology. Next Energy's final recommendation centers on the development and jumpstart of a fleet electrification program that will entail funding the installation of charging infrastructure, vehicles, and a future fleet plan. This grant agreement provides for the purchase and installation of 2 Level 2 EV chargers, 2 Ford E-Transit vans, and a Mean Green electric mower. This plan was developed in close coordination with the facilities director and motor pool supervisor, and the motor pool asset replacement schedule was utilized to balance the market availability of the vehicles and the highest and best use for organizational deployment. 1 van will be deployed to the Public Works Department, the other will be deployed to engineering, and the lawnmower will be used by facilities. This entire initiative will be grant funded with no match required from the city and represents a significant step forward in introducing city operations and employees to the future of electric vehicles within a municipal fleet, as well as an estimated investment of $200,000 into the city's motor pool from external funding sources. Fiscal effect: the city will be reimbursed for up to $200,000 in expenses related to the grant. Recommendation: authorize the city manager to sign and execute the grant agreement and authorize all expenditures provided for under Attachment B of the grant agreement. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. Commissioners, do we have a motion on this item? Commissioner Stonehouse?
Your Honor, I motion to authorize the city manager to sign and execute the grant agreement and authorize all expenditures provided under Attachment B of the grant agreement.
Thank you. And do we have a second? Mayor Pro Tem Davis?
I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Stonehouse?
I can only say I think this is a most remarkable grant. Not only is it 100% grant funded, which means the money is not city money being administered to it, but it also sets us well again on a good boost along the glide path that we're following for climate change and climate change adaptation, and the documents that we build and how we build the city to be able to take full effect of it. So it's something that is very rare. Again, only 3 cities in the state of Michigan selected to participate, Marquette being one of them. And I think it sends a powerful message as to our commitment to climate change and our commitment of how to get there, too. Thank you, Your Honor.
Pro Tem Davis?
Yes, I certainly agree with all of what Commissioner Stonehouse said, and a lot of what he has pointed out is very significant to our city. I also think that this grant agreement represents a lot of work with our city staff and the My Next City group, who I believe came to Marquette thinking that they were going to do some of that low-hanging fruit and found that we were already well on our way to a lot of the things that they were going forward. So this is a great agreement that we can take advantage of My Next Cities and do the right things for our city.
Any other comments from the commission? Commissioner Ottaway?
Yeah, this is a huge win for Marquette. It's costing us nothing, first off, and electrification is coming, right? So seeing that Marquette is going to be, kind of a chosen city for being the leader in the state on this is just an awesome accomplishment all around, and something that, you know, is a great thing that I think everyone that lives here is going to benefit from in the long run. So I'm excited about it, and I think everyone in the community should be.
Anybody else? Okay. And I would just add that under our consent agenda, item 3E is also adding 3 EV charging stations in our downtown district. And this, coupled with this item, as well as the agreement we have with the Board of Light and Power, I think is truly just you know, one more success story in Marquette's journey here to be proactive in the energy transition and phasing away from dependency in fossil fuels and more reliance on mineral-based energy systems. I truly do think we are positioning ourselves to be the leaders in the Upper Peninsula in this effort, and that should bring our residents some comfort knowing that we're doing what we can to be ready for this transition. If there's nothing else.
Kick it off for you.
Do you have something?
I was just going to introduce, we have a small presentation. Assistant City Manager Sean Hobbins, who has been really leading this project and talking with My Next Cities on a very regular basis, has some insight and the story to share on how we got started with this, the process, and how we came to this, this proposal. So if you don't mind giving him a few minutes here, he will take us through that. So Assistant City Manager Sean Hobbins, please.
Thanks, Karen. And thanks, y'all. You know, we don't usually do presentations for all our agenda items, but we wanted to take some time to highlight the work that's being accomplished here, especially considering that Marquette is going to be a model for this implementation across the whole state. You know, on this first slide, you can see some of the partners who are a part of the My Next Cities project. It's Consumers Energy, DTE, Eagle, MDOT, the MEDC, the Michigan Municipal League, amongst others. So it's a pretty robust team that's behind this initiative. I'm not planning on taking too long, but I wanted to cover just the history of the project, the process behind how we landed on fleet electrification, the initiative itself, and then our implementation plan for the future. So last December, the City Commission took a step forward and passed a significant resolution on climate action. Amongst other elements of the resolution, the City of Marquette committed to a citywide effort to eliminate the city's greenhouse gas emissions by 2050 and to implement additional projects to decrease carbon levels in the atmosphere and to seek available state, federal, philanthropic, and private funding for the above efforts. This initiative that I'm presenting tonight goes a long way towards, you know, making a step in that direction. So serendipitously, the city was approached by Next Energy to discuss this My Next City initiative. This is a part of Eagle's Catalyst Community Initiative to develop, design, and drive input for smart city implementations. And My Next Cities does this by identifying and deploying tailored smart city solutions to provide a roadmap for implementing similar solutions across Michigan. So basically, they're looking for solutions that they can test out in the 3 chosen cities, which was, as was mentioned, was Flint, Dearborn, and Marquette, and then implement across the state in similar communities. So since that time, the city manager's office has met bi-weekly with the program to determine the best implementation for us. So to start our process, real quick, interviews were conducted with appropriate department heads and the DDA director. The goal was to see what smart solutions could be deployed to assist with our operations. You know, we spoke about, it was touched on briefly about the JCI project. A lot of the initial review that Next Energy did was looking at the energy improvements done under that project, because I think that's what they were coming in thinking was a pretty viable option for us, and we'd done so much. They did spend some time looking at rooftop solar for city buildings, and that technology just isn't quite there with the price point, especially under this program's budget. And we also looked at lighting controls in the wastewater treatment plant, but we didn't necessarily feel that was the right choice for this time. This is a bigger initiative. This is something that could really, I think, be applied across the state and is a way to introduce our city staff and our city to electric vehicles where it might not otherwise be possible at the moment. So yeah, we looked at what deployment would make that best impact and how we could best use the program's budget. So we landed on fleet electrification. The program is going to fund the purchase of 2 Ford E-Transit vans, one for engineering and one for public works, one mean green electric lawnmower, that's a zero-turn riding mower, and 2 EV chargers at the Municipal Service Center. In addition to that, it's not just here's a shiny new toy, go play with it. It is looking at our actual usage of those vehicles through a data collection agreement, and then they're going to assist us with developing a fleet electrification plan for implementation in the future. So when it comes time for us to buy new vehicles, we'll at least have a model to work off of if it's feasible. This is just a quick overview of the Ford E-Transit vans. There's a couple different styles we can use. You know, we did look at the F-150 Lightning and the Mustang Mach-E. Those unfortunately are not quite available for a reasonable price right now. I think most of them are kind of going for double MSRP, so that wasn't something we were looking at. But I am excited to see how those could be, you know, incorporated in the city's fleet in the future. The Mustang Mach-E, most notably, is the only electric vehicle rated for police use by the Michigan State Police right now. So that's pretty impressive. The vans that we're going to be replacing look much like this. They average 3,750 miles per year at about 10.5 miles per gallon. One van is going to be outfitted for facilities maintenance, and the other one will be outfitted for the staff surveyor, which is that guy you see setting up the surveying tripods around town all summer and a good part of the winter, and doing a lot of good work. And he has a dedicated van for his specialty equipment. So we think that these vans are going to see pretty heavy use. And then here's an example of what the new van will look like. I'm going to try and get it vinyl wrapped, or have some like bold branding with the city to highlight the implementation of these vehicles in our fleet and our work with this project. So it won't be red. Our other vehicle will be the mean green mower. This is a zero-turn riding mower, so it's not just a little push mower from Lowe's. This will be, hopefully a one-to-one replacement of the mowers we already run in our fleet. The current mowers we use are diesel, which are more efficient and cleaner than comparable gas and propane mowers, but they still produce about 20 pounds of carbon dioxide emissions per hour. And we run these for about 190 hours per year. So that's 3,800 pounds of carbon being emitted into the atmosphere per mower. So this was a really exciting potential implementation. We're excited to see how those batteries really hold up and see if they can, stand up to the operations we put through. This is just a quick overview of the implementation process. After you hopefully approve this agreement tonight, we're going to work with vendors to locate and purchase vehicles. We have to act rather quickly because they're going quite fast. Even the E-Transit vans go quite fast. But we are also ready to proceed with charger installation shortly after this as well. We'll hopefully take delivery of the vehicles within the next 6 months and then outfit them for those city uses that I highlighted before. Then we go into the usage stage. Hopefully these are just going to fold right into our municipal fleet. And the only difference, that will be noticed is they have to be plugged in instead of filled up with gas, and hopefully need a little bit less maintenance. All the while, Next Energy is going to be collecting all the data from the charge points to see how much they're being used and how much fuel we're actually saving. And then long-term, we're going to be developing that fleet electrification plan. So just to wrap this up, this has been a really exciting project to work on, and I look forward to Marquette being recognized as a leader and model in the state of Michigan for this project, and I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Excuse me. Commissioners, do we have any comments for Commissioner Ottaway?
Not really any questions for you, Sean, but I just wanted to say amazing job with this. I think it's really exciting for me to see how excited you get about all of this and talking to you. And I think that it really, I love the idea of really making this thing a huge display for the community and just kind of show people the direction this is going. And I just look forward to where it's going. And thank you.
Yeah, just two quickies. When do you think we'll have the vans out on the street?
I'm hoping by summer. It just depends on how quickly we can locate and get them here.
Will we be able to have a wraparound on each one, explaining the project and what they're there for?
Yeah, so another element of this, Public Sector Consultants is a nonprofit involved with this project, and they want to do some of the work with marketing, and publicizing like this project and preparing it as a model for other communities. So I'm trying to get them to work with me to do a vinyl wrap or something really bold on these vans.
Yeah, I'd hate to miss that opportunity, just have a plain Jane van out there that doesn't really tell the story of what it's doing.
Yeah, I think we're going to come up with something cool.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Commissioner Hanley?
Thank you. I just want to say you did a great job on the presentation, giving the background of it. It's something that I think all of the commissioners are very excited to see. I know the city staff is probably excited to see it too come into play, and the people in Public Works. I'm sure we'll have people that will be skeptical about batteries in the winter and things here, which is, I'm assuming, why they chose us as one of the people to lead it, is to see how it actually holds up. And I'm excited to see how this works and hopefully see the majority of our fleet electrified within the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And you make a great point about the weather. You know, this really gives us a chance to see how it works in this climate without taking the risk ourselves. And, you know, we get to, replace a couple of vehicles that we might not have otherwise replaced just due to budgetary concerns, but we get to replace them with something, kind of bold and new and really see how it goes. So.
Anyone else on the commission? Well, thank you, Sean. Love the presentation, and this truly is a big win for us, and I think just helping them gather some data in exchange for them paying for all of this is a pretty great trade for us, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioners, we have a first and second. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Moving on, this brings us to our last new business item, number 5, which is the city manager and city attorney compensation. City clerk, background, please.
Thank you, Mayor. On September 26th, the City Commission reviewed the annual performance evaluations for both the city manager and city attorney and extended each of their contracts for 2 years to September 30th, 2024 at the existing compensation. At that time, the commission also discussed revisiting compensation at a future date. At the meeting on January 30th, the mayor requested a compensation recommendation be brought to tonight's meeting. The subcommittee, comprised of Mayor Pro Tem Davis and Commissioners Smith and Stonehouse, met to discuss the compensation level of the manager and attorney on February 15th. The subcommittee's resulting recommendation is to increase the base salary of both the manager and attorney by 2%, retroactive to October 1st, 2022, to provide a one-time bonus equivalent to 0.5% of total compensation for each, and to extend each of their contracts by another year to September 30th, 2025. Fiscal effect: the recommended 2% increase for each the manager and city attorney will bring their annual salaries to $127,500 and $117,300 respectively. Additionally, the cost of the recommended bonus for each the city manager and city attorney equates to $625 and $575 respectively. This action will require a budget adjustment. Recommendation: approve the subcommittee's recommendation to provide the city manager and city attorney with a one-time payment equivalent to 0.5% of their base salaries. Also, increase both salaries by 2%, retroactive to October 1st, 2022. Direct the city attorney to amend both contracts to reflect the new salaries, extend each of their contracts to September 30th, 2025, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the amended contracts. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. Commissioners, do we have a motion on this item? Commissioner Stonehouse?
Your Honor, I motion to approve the subcommittee's recommendation to provide the city manager and the city attorney with a one-time payment equivalent to 0.5% of their base salaries. Also, to increase both salaries by 2% retroactive to October 1st, 2022. Direct the city attorney to amend both contracts to reflect the new salaries, extend each of their contracts to September 30, 2025, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the amended contracts.
Okay, and do we have a second on that motion? Commissioner Ottaway?
Second.
Commissioner Stonehouse, any discussion or comment?
I would only discuss, Your Honor, that I think we have two stellar employees here who are doing terrific work for the city of Marquette, and we need to make sure that we have made it a real effort to reward them for that. I would also point out that the 2% is in line with what all of the bargaining units have received this year from the city. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. Commissioner Ottaway?
Yeah, I just want to note that this is really something that, as a city and the city commission, we have to be very mindful of moving forward, and why it's so important to really discuss and understand our finances. 2% isn't great, and for me, it's disappointing that this is where we are with not only our city manager, but all city staff. And I commend our city manager and attorney for understanding and recognizing where we are from a staffing standpoint, and understanding that that is the appropriate raise amount. But looking forward, we need to do what we can do to get more appropriate raises for all city staff moving forward. We need to keep people that are talented here, and to do that, we have to pay them. So I say as a commission, we need to be mindful of that moving forward, and just be ready for those discussions in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other discussion or comments from the commission? Okay, I would just add, I'd like to thank the ad hoc committee comprised of Mayor Pro Tem Davis, Commissioner Stonehouse, and Commissioner Smith for getting this recommendation back to the whole commission in a short time frame. City Manager Karen Kovacs and City Attorney Suzanne Larson are truly tremendous assets to the city. And frankly, I agree. I wish we all could just give you both more than a 2% raise. I wish we could give our staff that as well. And you are the last two members of our staff to receive a raise at this point, which I don't think has gone unnoticed, the fact that the rest of the staff was put first. I'm sure they appreciate that. I wouldn't be surprised there's a lot of other communities that would like to steal both of you from us, and I'm sure they could probably offer to pay you both more. And I just appreciate the fact that you both love this community enough that you're sticking around with us. Thank you. There's no other discussion. Last opportunity. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. That brings us to our second public comment session of the evening. Just a reminder, public comment may not exceed 3 minutes per person. Please clearly state your name and physical address, and feel free to approach the center podium.
Hello, my name is Florence Namyatka. I live at 717 West Bluff Street. I am here regarding the emergency generator testing at Duke Life Point Marquette. They do emergency generator testing minimum monthly, and it's very loud. There's nothing covering those generators. They're directly behind the hospital, and it's very loud. It prevents you from sleeping at night, and everyone of my neighbors in my nearby area can hear it, as well as people on Ridge, all the way up to the cemetery. And I have contacted various people over the last 3 years, and there really hasn't been any movement on this. So I wanted to find out if there's something else that possibly I may need to do in order to get some action going on this. I know that there are noise barriers that can be made to reduce the noise. And even Marquette Township had a similar problem with the Board of Light and Power generators, and I looked through some information from them, and they had put some sort of envelope in place to reduce the noise and the vibration. So that's what I'm requesting tonight, because basically they're in my backyard and it's very loud. And I don't like not being able to sleep at night, and actually neither do any of my neighbors. We've all talked about it. So I don't know if maybe I need to start a petition or what else needs to be done. I'm really sort of clueless as far as that goes. And I was also wondering if it was possible to get a copy of the purchase agreement for the piece of land that Duke Life Point bought, to see if there was anything in place there for them to make sure they weren't impacting the surrounding neighborhood, basically. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
Hi, my name is Matt Lutenberger, 1406 Garfield Ave, City of Marquette. I want to start tonight with a couple of questions that I would hope could be answered this evening, because most of it's policy questions and not really deliberative about what we're doing here tonight. But I want to ask, since the City of Marquette put together a whole affordable housing packet and discussion and plans, hear me out, because this might take a little while. What rate does commercial housing, and that means rental spaces of large quantities like Founders Landing, what rate do they get taxed at by the city and for the services that are required to help them out? Most of them are owned by large corporations. Some of them are from downstate, some of them from here in town, like Viridia Group has most of Founders Landing. As far as the split, so that's a commercial rental. We all understand that's a big corporation. You buy it, you have a one-bedroom place or a two-bedroom place on Presque Isle Ave. That's understandable as a commercial venture. Do small renters, people who own 2-3 houses and they rent out the duplex or they rent out the basement, do they pay the same rate? And I ask this as a financial question, but I also ask because, Mr. Stonehouse, you keep bringing up tax revenue needed for the city, and somehow sales of land is the only tax revenue we seem to get. So did the hospital on that transfer to Northern, did they pay the city a tax break or a tax for that actual sale? Did the city see any revenue from the sale or the transfer from Viridia Group, or from Duke Life Point to Viridia Group to NMU back to Viridia Group? However that works. Is that a commercial rental space? And when can we expect the city to say, there are more ways to make money in the commercial realm? I wanted to turn the old hospital into an aquarium and a science center. That's recreation. I wanted to turn Cliffs Dow into a dog sled and a sledding run and a water park of some sort. That's recreation. Those are both tax revenues. I'm wondering, is that the same level of tax revenue as a single family who owns a second house and rents it out and gets $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 a month? Do they get taxed, or do they get assessed in the same way that you guys are making policy? Do they get the same benefit as a large corporation coming in and buying a big swath of land? That would be my basic question. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else for public comment this evening? Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, public comment is now closed. That brings us on to comments from the commission. I'm going to start things off with Pro Tem Davis and move on around this way.
Thank you. I want to express my appreciation for Mr. Reed and Mr. Dishnell for speaking earlier in the first public comment about our property on 601 Lakeshore. And particularly, Mr. Reed, thank you for studying our documents so well. I think the two of you represent our struggles here, that there are two sides to this issue that we as a commission are studying very, very hard, and it's very important. I really appreciate the comments from both of you, and I'm hoping that in the greater community we continue to hear comments from people. And I think we all get a lot of emails or phone calls or maybe side conversations when we're out in the community about what people feel about that property. There's been some confusion about exactly where that piece of property is. If you Google it, it puts it in the place where it's not. So I think that's getting cleared up. But please, as we look at this, please, everyone, continue to express your opinions to we as commissioners so that we can hear from you and really truly represent you. Florence, I'm really glad that I don't hear that. Well, okay, I'll come back. I'm hoping that our city manager can maybe address that. I don't know if there's some noise ordinance or something that can be done. And
There's a noise ordinance.
this is just our time to talk, so I'm sorry. And then Matt, again, maybe our city manager can address the question about commercial tax, as that's how you put that. So, and that's all I have for this evening.
Commissioner Stonehouse?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. The comments regarding the property on Lake Shore were certainly most illuminating and well put out. But I would caution people, or suggest, or hope, or make the point, I guess, that it's one thing to say, go find the money somewhere else. It's another to find the money somewhere else. So to suggest that we take it out and, for example, make it a park or something that's part of the public waterfront, without equally being able to be as aggressive in determining how do we make up for the money that we are not using that for, becomes really problematic. And it's usually not the sale of property that is the income generator. It's the continual tax use of the property that becomes the income generator. So I'm not suggesting we do something or we don't do something. I'm trying to explain that there's ramifications to either side of it, how you may look at it and hope for the future of it. It's a difficult situation. That's an example of it, but we face that all the way along as you try and work within the bounds of a city that's essentially landlocked, that has over 50% of its property tax-free, and non-taxable property, that's Northern Michigan University, that's county buildings, city buildings, state buildings, nonprofits, all of that in a bundle. More typical for Michigan communities, about 22% non-taxable. So when you look at a tax base, we don't have one. Our tax base continues to be small, and it's not going to expand because the boundaries of the city don't expand. So anything that we do within those boundaries in terms of increasing taxation is going to be very difficult and very problematic. So we look at opportunities like the old hospital building, for example, transitioning to Northern and coming back now as a taxable entity, as being critically important to us, the same way we do the brownfields that are out there too. So there's hope for the future, but it's going to be very difficult in the interim. That said, on a good note, I really want to give my thanks to the good folks at DPW for the tremendous job in moving the snow we've had the last few days, and certainly sharpening the snow plows tonight, because we're going to have a little bit more. They have done yeoman's work, and even the snowplow driver that hides down the end of my street and waits until I shovel out my driveway. And I know he does that, but certainly very important. I also wanted to thank, too, the staff, Your Honor, because they have done a remarkable job, particularly with the grant that we just discussed and went through, the Michigan Next City grant, to be able to do that as quickly as they did it, as efficiently as they did it, and with the outcome we have from it, is, I think, very remarkable and certainly great testament to the tremendous staff we do have working for the city. Thank you, Your Honor, for your time.
Commissioner Hanley?
Thank you. I do want to respond a little bit to Mr. Reed. You had made a comment that it wasn't in our budget that you saw for this sale, and you're correct. It's not. But the problem is our budget isn't very well balanced. And as you can see, we can't give our staff raises with the amount that we have in the appropriate amount, so we do need to bring our tax base up. But sidelining from that, I was unable to make the meeting our last meeting because of illness. And I do want to point out that I also feel like we're rushing this. I want to make sure that anything that's even close to our lake shore is taken care of and making sure that we are doing all the right things. I would personally have liked to see a 60-day RFP where people could show us their best proposals instead of just going forward with one of the three and just saying, well, maybe if someone else comes forward. I really would have liked to push more on that. I think it's important that we take it into the fact that in our prior master plan, we looked at it for possible more housing instead of just a hotel. We did it in the Lakeshore Task Force, we did it in the last master plan, and in the Lower Harbor master plan. All of them said that it could be a place for housing, and I feel like we're leaving that out and leaving it on the table. I would like to point out that it's not only the sale price that we get money for this, though. It's if we were to say do the hotel, it would be a $75,000 a year increase in our tax base as well as the sale. So it is a big number, and I'm not opposed to looking at it, but I will say that at this point, I don't like the idea of doing something. In the last 2 weeks, the only people that have contacted me have been people that have been against us doing something in this spot and wanting to know what they can do. I, of course, told them to go to master planning, but also to come to our meetings and let us know, because that comes into a big play with decisions that we make. On a side note, I did get to ride in the snowplow last week on Thursday with one of our wonderful snowplow drivers, and I did one of the night ones. I started at 6:30 p.m. and went until about 9, and it was difficult getting down those side streets. And the route we did was by Lee Street and all of those little streets in that little corridor over there, and it was hard for that plow to get through and get around and through traffic and with cars parked. And so I do encourage people that if there is a snowstorm going on and you have your car parked on the street, if you can get it off the street before the midnight parking ban, I think it's extremely helpful to making sure that our snowbanks stay back as far as they can and give you as much space on the roads as you can, because that's one of the biggest issues that they come into, is if they can't stay along one side of the road and they're weaving in and out, that snow that will harden up overnight, just like it does at the end of our driveways when they plow us in 4 times, and we have a lump there that doesn't go away. I will say I felt a little bit bad and I did smile a little bit when the poor girls that were shoveling got plowed in, I think 3 separate times on that route. I felt so awful for them. They just looked devastated. I've been there. Other than that, I think that everything has been going well. I'm really excited about the MI Next Cities, and I think I'm good.
Commissioner Larson.
Yes, thank you. First off, I would just like to say congratulations to Stephen Laurie. This is not his first rodeo with the Planning Commission. He has served on a number of occasions before, I believe, with appointments and reappointments. So having him back on the Planning Commission is going to be a great benefit as we move forward through the rest of this master planning process and beyond. So congratulations for that, and I'm glad that you're coming back to serve. In addition to that, I think what we're moving forward with the My Next Cities grant with Superior Watershed and the DDA with their fast chargers that they are looking at putting into the city is an excellent step towards our beneficial electrification, of the city. We've taken a lot of great steps with efficiency, now moving into looking at electrification of fleets and vehicles. And I look forward to future when we start discussing additional, renewable energy options with the city or with the MBLP, together. So thank you.
Commissioner Ottaway.
Thank you, Mayor. Love that still. The first thing I wanted to mention was our Community Master Plan Forum. Such an awesome success. I think most of the commissioners, if not all of them, some of them that weren't sick, I believe, but probably spent some time there. But hundreds of people in the community showed up. It was just great. I wanted to thank the city staff for everything that they did for that. It was just so well put on and something that I think is not matched in many cities and communities. So thank you for that. Second point of note, the DDA has 2 public meetings scheduled to discuss the proposed downtown social district. These will occur at the Marquette Commons on February 28th from 5:30 to 6:30 and March 1st from 11 a.m. to noon. So if you're interested in Marquette's social district possibilities, please go to the Commons and discuss those. Make yourself heard at the forums. Also, March 5th through the 11th is Restaurant Week in downtown Marquette. It's an absolutely great event for all of our community restaurants. There's typically a lot of great deals and great specials going on, so get out and support all your local businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have two quick things I wanted to mention. One was our master plan's public open house that we had over 500 community members participate in. I was there for about 3.5 hours. The event was only 3 hours, so it was great seeing that level of engagement and discussion with the public, and we'll have a lot more to come with that whole process, but a big shout out to staff for putting that all together and for how smoothly everything ran. And one other thing I wanted to just throw out there, Innovate Marquette is hosting a Women in Entrepreneurship event on March 8th from 5 to 8 p.m. at the Northern Center, if anyone is interested. And with that, I'm going to throw it over to our city manager.
Thank you. I want to touch on the two requests from commissioners to address the emergency generator testing and the commercial tax or property taxes related to some of those comments. First, the emergency generator testing. Florence has been an incredibly patient resident. She is in constant contact or continuous contact with us, looking for any updates. The last real update I was able to provide to her was back in October, when we had reached out to the hospital regarding the complaint, and the information I've received is pretty generic, but the generators must be tested and must be done at a time where it presents the lowest risk to outcomes over at the hospital. So a lot of times they have to wait until those ORs and cath labs are not in use. So it does end up being typically at hours that are less favorable for many. So Florence provided several ideas and some proposed options for addressing that noise complaint. We did pass those on to the hospital. Unfortunately, I have not had a follow-up meeting with the hospital regarding this, but we do have those scheduled regularly for the next few months. So this will be at the top of my list. There are also some examples for noise ordinances that Florence has also provided, and we will be talking about those just as exploring amongst staff before we come back before the commission with any updates. So again, Florence, I cannot express how grateful I am for your patience and for the research you have done and provided these examples and this information. It is very helpful when we have that to share with our community partners when we follow up with them. In regards to the comments about taxes, and there's several comments that I could probably share with this, but I think it's important to perhaps explore or mention our options for revenue generation within the city are incredibly limited, and that is in particular very unique perhaps to our state. When we look at the surrounding states with Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and Wisconsin, there are several other options other than property taxes. The only local tax source that we have as a municipality within the state of Michigan are property taxes and income taxes. Special revenue sources are also very limited on how much we can generate for revenue. Permitting, inspections, things like that are very strictly limited to cost recovery. And in many cases, they are included in our annual audit. We do not have the ability to have sales tax, motor fuel tax, motor vehicle license directly to the state or directly to the city, alcohol, beverage sales, tobacco sales, or public utility sales. Hotel taxes are one that are being mentioned quite frequently amongst conversations with residents and employees. However, at this point, that is not something we are able to do either due to the limitations within the state's law. Again, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin have several options where we only have two for those kinds of opportunities. So we do tend to lean heavily on those property taxes. And there is a difference between what had been mentioned with perhaps tax from a museum or an aquarium. Generally, those are nonprofit and those are non-tax paying entities for property taxes. The housing developments that we do have that are subsidized, we have 6 of them and bring in $30,000 of revenue total annually for all 6, whereas perhaps a more commercialized apartment complex that does not have any subsidy brings in significantly more. So it is really looking at what that balance is to meet the needs for our community, but also financially as well when we do evaluate those options. And we are still going through with the process for 601 South Lakeshore Boulevard and looking at what we have right now and what we are aware other people are interested in as well. So we are starting that analysis, or we have started that analysis since the last meeting. I think, did that answer your question, Sally? I believe you asked. So commercial versus residential, the only real difference when we look at something like that has to do with the operating tax for schools. Homestead properties are exempt from paying that operating school tax, whereas perhaps non-homestead or typically the commercial tend to be a little bit, have that, but also tend to be higher in value too. So that is the difference as well. All right, lastly, I wanted to mention the community office hours. The next community office hours will be on Wednesday, March 8th. We encourage residents, if they have questions about that property specifically, that they can come and contact us and have that conversation with city staff. The community office hours is typically 10 a.m. to noon. We usually have it at Peter White Public Library. However, if we are anticipating higher turnout, we may change that location, but we will issue a PSA on that and have something posted. So that is all. Thank you also for the good news here with the My Next Cities grant application. We are very excited about that, and I really want to give a lot of credit to Sean and the rest of city staff who had a lot to say about that and put quite a bit of time into this. So thank you. That's all.
All right, and we are adjourned at 6:56 p.m.